everyone. This is Lin Bouthillier from linbouthillier.com. I'm a certified trauma recovery coach, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of my ongoing series entitled Monogamous at 13. Today's episode is involving narcissistic abuse and narcissistic abuse tactics and the traits of people who have, you know, a tendency to have very high narcissistic behaviors. And as always, because this is related to trauma, it is related to abuse, I ask that you recognize that this is a trigger warning. And I also ask you, if you would please, my wonderful viewers, take excellent care of your nervous system while you're viewing this video or listening to it. I have a little grounding stone in my hand. I'll show it to you. This is one of my little holy stones. I absolutely love to use these for grounding techniques, and it helps me to remain connected to my body while I'm doing my trauma recovery work. So whether I'm working with a client or working on my own trauma or sharing information with others on this platform, the message is the same. I care about your nervous system and your well-being, and I would love it if you would care about your nervous system and your well-being and protect yourself while you're doing your trauma recovery work. So with that being said, the other thing is that my videos are not really recommended for people under the age of 18 years old. This video is not going to contain information or references to information about or references to sexual abuse or physical abuse. But the topic today is about how narcissistic people with high narcissistic traits, absolutely love to engage in controlling other people's relationships. So I'm going to share a little bit of information with you and then give you some examples about how I've experienced that in my life that will help you to be able to gauge whether or not you're assessing your situation in an accurate way. Some of us, when we're first starting out especially, to sort it all out, to start naming behaviors and start naming the feelings and recognizing bits and pieces of our own trauma history, our own story, our own relational story. What can happen is we can hear someone else describe what happened to them and go, okay, this is helping me connect the dots so that I can name and understand and recognize what I've been through. And then once I begin to have that recognition, then I can start to make some choices. I can start to make a plan. And it can be my own autonomous plan, because my life is different than every other person's life. My path is different than every other person's path. So I'm going to just read a little bit from an AI overview. I just put in this is what I put into Google just a few minutes ago. It says, how narcissists interfere in your relationships. So the AI overview reads, narcissists often interfere in relationships through manipulative behaviors like gaslighting, threats, isolation, and control tactics. They may use flattery to gain control, isolate the victim from support systems, withhold affection to manipulate, and even involve third parties to create jealousy. Narcissists can also use financial gaslighting, questioning a partner's financial decisions, or accusing them of irresponsibility. So here's a more detailed breakdown. Manipulation and control. They use gaslighting. They use threats and intimidation. They use withholding affection. They use triangulation, where they speak about you to someone else and then make sure that you know about it, or you find out about it a while after it's happened, which gives you a 1-2 punch, where you talked about me behind my back, but I didn't get to know about it, and it went on, it was widespread, and you've triangulated me all over the place for the purpose of making me feel as if I'm on the periphery, I'm powerless, I have no control in any situation, even about my own information, and that you have carte blanche, narcissist, you have carte blanche to misrepresent me to as many people as you want to for the purpose of power and control, and to create alliances for yourself while diminishing me. So each of us, at some point, or, at one point in time, will experience some form of triangulation in our life. I'm very confident of that, even if it was only back when we were teenagers and we were in school and our friends were triangulating us against other friends. So the next one after, and all of those were under manipulation and control. Oh, love bombing is one of them too. And you don't have to be in an intimate partner relationship in order to be love bombed. You can be love bombed by somebody who wants power and control over you. It can be a friend. It can be a coworker. It can be a teacher. It can be a clergy member. It can be a person in your congregation. It's very, very common to happen in religious settings, to be love bombed, especially since certain churches have a tendency to fall more under the category once you take a closer look at them. I myself have experienced it in several different denomination churches where it was very cult-like, and the people just kind of robotically gravitate towards you when you first come in. And it's information collecting, and it's to break down your barriers, and it's to get you to trust them implicitly right out of the gate. There's a whole bunch of different reasons for it, but it's all manipulation and control, which is list number 1 here. So now we're going into list number 2, which is isolation. Cutting off support networks. Narcissists may try to isolate their partner from friends and family, making them more dependent on the narcissist. Well, that's what the triangulation is all about. That's exactly what threats of intimidation and gaslighting and triangulation are all about, is also cutting you off, not just from others around you, but cutting you off from yourself, from your own judgment, cutting you off from your connection to your own feelings in your body that tell you. Your feelings will guide you. They will tell you. You will know what's happening by your feelings. But if they can cut you off from the support networks in your life, and the most important support network in your life is your connection to yourself, then they have been able to leverage that power and control that they want through isolation. The next one under isolation is blaming others. They might say that the victim support system they might say that the victim's support system doesn't care about them, or that only the narcissist understands them, according to, and it cites something here called Charlie Health. Number 3 is financial abuse, financial manipulation. They might use financial gaslighting, questioning the victim's spending, or accusing them of irresponsibility. And financial control. They may try to control the victim's finances or make them dependent on them financially. Well, one of the things that I experienced in recent months, within the past year, was the financial control that comes from a narcissistic family system when there's an elderly parent. And there's a whole lot of tentacles coming out at a time like that, where people are just absolutely hungry for power and control, and come up with an infinite number of ways to manipulate each other if there's high narcissistic traits in the family system. And number 4 is other behavior. Other behaviors: blaming and minimizing, arrogance and entitlement, and lack of empathy. So I'll go back to the first paragraph here. It says narcissists often interfere in relationships through manipulative behaviors like gaslighting, threats, isolation, and control tactics. They may use flattery to gain control, isolate the victim from support systems, withhold affection to manipulate, and even involve third parties to create jealousy. Jealousy is a giant leverage tool to narcissistic people. Narcissists can also use financial gaslighting, questioning a partner's financial decisions, or accusing them of irresponsibility. But all of these things are related to how a narcissist controls other people, but they do damage relationships, and they try to orchestrate relationships to be under their control. So now I will give you an example of how I experienced that. I had a falling out with a highly narcissistic and abusive, verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, psychologically abusive sibling. And this sibling and I, we parted ways because the abuse was just horrendous. It was just relentless. And I had made a decision to go full no contact with this individual. And I had a sister. When I say had, I say this because I've gone full no contact. And now, estrangement means you are as a stranger to me. That's exactly what that means. And so I have gone estranged from the people in my family who are dependable, reliable, durable, consistent, abusive people. They don't have any other way of engaging. And when I recognized that, I decided for my own health and wellness, I needed to protect my systems. I needed to protect my nervous system. I needed to protect all of my biological systems from the after effects of these forms of trauma. And so the sibling that I had at the time, I was still in contact with them, but I could feel that the relationship wasn't going to ever be healthy. I already knew that. I knew it very, very well, and I had known it for years. But I just hadn't taken that step yet to do that emotional cutoff that needs to happen, because no matter how many different ways you stand on your head to try to please them, it's not enough, and they will still be coming at you for power and control over your relationships and over you. And so it's a little bit of a complex story, but so here's how it began. That sibling was in town and lives out of state, and they came into town, and they came here on a mission. Let me know right out of the gate, I've had enough of your rift with this other sibling over here, and you're going to fix it this time while I'm here. And some of you might have just sat up a little straighter in your chair, or your ears might have perked up and gone, oh, wait a minute, I've heard that language before in my relationships too, where one person decides arbitrarily that they are the orchestrator of other people's relationships. It is a highly, highly, highly narcissistic trait. It is entitlement. It is them not accepting in any way. It doesn't even, the word autonomy is not even in their language, many of them. It's a word they don't know, and even if they did know it, they wouldn't use it. They rail against it. They do not want other people to have autonomy because they find no use for it. It gets in the way of what they want. You should not be able to be autonomous and make your own decisions and choose whether or not you want relationships on your own. To them, that's just rubbish, because they're entitled and they want to. So they're going to. And you're going to come along with it quietly and not make a fuss, or else you're a bad person. That's absolutely how the narcissist sees it. So this individual, before they arrived in town, like maybe 6 to 8 weeks before they arrived in town, I had sent a message and said, I would like to take you out for dinner and just have a nice quiet dinner and visit. And I was making it very clear, this is a one-on-one dinner date. You and I, sisters, going out for dinner. And she accepted, and I named the place, and it was a place we had been in her previous visit, and it was my first time ever going there, and I loved the food, and it was just absolutely wonderful, and I was really looking forward to going back. But this time I wanted to treat, and so I sent her that message and said, I would really like to, if you could, choose a date in the evening sometime during your trip where we can go out to dinner. Then I'll put it on my calendar that time is reserved for doing that with you. And so that she readily agreed. And then when she arrived, she contacted me the day before before our dinner date was planned for, and said, I've invited, and she named the sibling that I had the falling out with. I've invited them, her and her spouse, to come with us, and when we go to dinner there, you're going to end your feud with that person. You're going to end it. It's making me uncomfortable, and I don't like it. It's causing a rift in the family. So you're going to fix it there. You're going to make peace with that person. And my first thought was, I started to laugh when I saw that, when this language is being used at me. And I didn't say this, but my first thought was, I invited you to dinner, you accepted, and now you're bringing two people that I'm full no contact with, and I'm supposed to pay for their dinners? Am I hearing this right? And I'm supposed to ask them to forgive me for being abused by them? No, I don't think so. So my response was, uh, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but the dinner is now with me. The dinner with me is now canceled. I'm not going. I'm not going to drive there. I'm not going to meet you there. I'm not going to sit down and eat a meal with two people who have harmed me irreparably, done unbelievable character assassination against me, and have called me filthy names and told me that I am just an absolutely horrible human being. Actually, they didn't say human being, they said person. But when somebody looks right at you, and they're your sibling, and they say, no one on the planet can stand you. You are just an absolutely horrible person. And that came from saying to them this word, no. When somebody wants you to do something, and it's not going to work out for you, and you just simply tell them no with a smile, and you get rage, and you get ripped a new one for saying no, that is not a healthy relationship, and there is almost 0% chance that you can ever be safe in that relationship, because that person feels entitlement to wreck you. And they will, again and again and again. Every single time they don't like a feeling or an emotion that they're having, they believe they have the right to emotionally destroy you. And this person has done this since I was a very little girl. And I understand the family dynamics, the birth order situation, the alliances that were formed in the family that built the conditions to be ripe for that happening. So, but I also understand, I want to make very, very clear, when a person engages in completely unethical, immoral, cruel, manipulative, isolating, controlling behavior, it's not because all the stars aligned in the universe and all the family conditions were ripe for it. It's because they want to. The conditions were building for a long time. That is absolutely true. But that doesn't mean it had to happen. Those injuries did not have to happen just because the conditions were right for it. The person made a choice because they felt entitled and they believed they had the right to, when they did not. So the fallout from me saying no to yet another highly narcissistic former sibling right now. They're my former siblings. I hold no relationship with them. As I said, they are as strangers to me, which means no contact, no poking at them, no sending them anything, no sidelong glances, no side eye when we're together, no stink eye coming at them. Just leave them alone. That's the only way for me to deal with it. And it's the only ethical way for me to deal with it, is to just, um, they get zero of my attention under any circumstances ever. And so this is a classic example of one narcissistic person trying to gain control over your relationships. When I had it done to me, I was very calm, and I was very reserved about what I would say. And what I said was, um, just in case you missed the memo, I'm a woman who's in my 50s. I was at the time. And I don't give anybody permission to orchestrate my relationships in the world. So my response is, no, thank you. I will not be coming out to dinner. I'm rescinding the offer to take you out for dinner. I hope you all have a nice time. Have a nice time together, but you're leaving me out of it. And you do not have the right to just waltz into the state where I live and tell me that I am going to hold relationship with somebody because it's giving you some form of emotional boo-boo and insecurity inside. And I got, uh, I wasn't given nasty language type of pushback, but the results of this took about 5 years to show up in my life. Narcissistic people, people of low conscience, low remorse, and low empathy, and sometimes they have some pretty noticeable sociopathic or psychopathic traits, because personality disordered behavior, I'm not talking about diagnosing anyone, but personality disordered behaviors and traits are often comorbid. So someone can have narcissistic traits, but they can also have psychopathic or sociopathic traits. They can have borderline traits. They can have oppositional defiant traits. Lots and lots and lots of stuff going on, and it all kind of blurs together. Um, can think of it almost like you know, a cup of ice cream that has a whole bunch of different mix-ins added into it, for a good visual on how a person who's comorbid with multiple different things going on at the same time in their behavior would look. So this individual waited some time, and this is really, really important point that I'm about to make. Please don't underestimate the possibility of this happening from a highly narcissistic, controlling person in your life, controlling specifically about your relationships. The sibling who got told, no, you do not orchestrate my relationships with other people. If I've gone full no contact, it's because I'm an autonomous person. It has nothing to do with you. You don't get to try to force me to put it back together. No, you are not an authority figure in my life, and you are dreaming if you think that you get to just come to my home and tell me that I'm going to fix a relationship because you want it fixed. No, does not work that way. You're dreaming. And what that person may do, and in my case they did, they just go away quietly. And what I didn't know at the time is that I had just pretty much opened Pandora's box. What was happening quietly behind the scenes was that the more in the future, as I just vaguely, not in a great amount of detail, but I vaguely disclosed that my relationship with my spouse was ending, and that it had been an abuse case for a very long time, lots and lots of forms of abuse, lots of power and control issues, high narcissistic traits, high psychopathic traits, antisocial traits, lack of remorse, lack of recognition of wrongdoing, lack of conscience, and lack of empathy, just over and over and over and over again. Lots and lots of, not just one mountain of evidence, but multiple mountains of evidence that these things took place. Dates, times, places, all of it recorded in domestic violence counseling in 3 separate places, and lots of mental health counseling, and then at one marriage counselor's office. So what ended up happening is the narcissistic person can and will bank your information for use at a later date. If you offend them, if you say no to them, if you give them pushback, if you flex your muscle of autonomy at them in any way, even if you do it soft with a soft voice and a smile on your face, when you give them the smiling no, does not fly with them. And they in their head, they believe they're an authority, and they may have just made that decision. You are going to fucking pay. You are not getting away with this. No way. You are not going to tell me no and get away with it. So they can get very creative in the ways that they're going to put their tentacles into your life silently, without you knowing. Smear campaign, character assassination, orchestrating of triangulation behind your back, getting into your kids' lives, getting into your kids' social media, getting into your spouse's life, getting into your partner's social media, getting into every aspect of your life that they can in a stealth way where you will not recognize it. It's all going to be under the radar. All of it's flying under the radar. They will hijack your nuclear family. Okay, I hate that expression, but your partner, your children, if you have grandchildren, your closest relationships in the world, they're going to usurp them. They're going to manipulate and almost like eroding the foundation of them, so that it only takes one mild gust of wind to just knock it all over. And that's just a metaphor for how tenaciously they will go back with just little tiny pieces of information, and they do things like somatic gaslighting is one of the phrases that I use, where if they're talking to somebody and that person is speaking about you in a favorable way, they're going to squint their eyes and tilt their head and look at them like, what, the same person that I know? You're talking about them being good? What? That sort of behavior. Just to make somebody question. Somebody will ask a question and then they will just vomit all the information that they want that person to know. And sometimes it's done in a really subtle, like I said already, a somatic response, meaning their body language just kind of shows discomfort at the idea of even speaking your name or any aspects of you. They're just like they bit a lemon, or like it causes them pain. It's like, oh gosh, yeah. Or another phrase that comes up is, I'm very concerned about them, with that head shake and that look on the face that means, oh, they're just not right. I'm so concerned about them. But what they can do is get into your life like termites, and they do their damage. But generally speaking, termites aren't noisy. It's not like they're, rattling the house. And they do tremendous damage that's unseen until it's seen. And then the expense is tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous expense for the person who's losing their relationships and losing their self-esteem and losing their confidence and losing their connections in the world, losing their safety. They absolutely want your safety to be compromised or obliterated, for you not to feel that you have alliances in the world anymore. Well, this is why the work of Melanie Tonia Evans from Melbourne, Australia is so, so, so important. What she teaches is that, and you can go to her YouTube channel, just put in Melanie Tonia, ToniaEvans, Melanie Tonia Evans. She's a brilliant content creator. She's created something called NARP, which is the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program. And it's a course that you can take that she created, and it's very, very, very highly world-renowned course. Highly rated, world-renowned course, very respected. And so anyways, the creator of NARP is Melanie Tonia Evans, and she teaches again and again and again. It's her life's work to teach people that being self-partnered is the way to recovery from narcissistic abuse. Being self-partnered means I always trust myself because I'm trustworthy. I can trust what my body, what my gut, what my mind, what my heart is telling me. I can tell just at one quick glance this person means me harm, and that means that I do not give the keys of the kingdom away to them. I absolutely do not. So who do I turn to when I need to have some advice? I turn to myself, not them. When I want to make a plan and I want to develop my life into a much healthier way of living than I had before with these harmful people, I turn to myself to make that plan. I turn to myself to make that happen. I turn to myself to envision it. I turn to myself, not for the purpose of shutting out everybody else in the world, but I turn to myself as my own reliable partner whom I know does not betray me. I can trust that I don't do that to myself. Why is that? Because I'm love, light, truth, compassion, and human decency. And I know where to focus my energy. I focus it inward. And the people outside of me that I do engage with are the people who reflect to me. Every time I meet them, every time I interact with them, they show me that they are love, light, truth, compassion, and human decency as well. They are connected to empathy. They are connected to their self. They're connected to their environment. They're connected to their body, to the universe. They're connected to source energy. And they wouldn't harm anyone. They have no intention to harm anyone, and they do not manipulate and control. So another really quick way that someone may try to orchestrate your relationships, another example of a narcissistic person doing that would be like what happened. I've spoken about it multiple times, but the woman who was my spouse's mother, she's no longer extant on this planet, but she did not want the marriage to happen between her son and myself. So instead of sitting down with her son and saying, I don't want you to marry that girl that you're engaged to, she orchestrated having my mother over for lunch, telling my mother, when you go home today, I want you to tell don't bring your daughter with you when you come for lunch. There's some things that as the mother of the bride and groom that we should be talking about, because this is only months before our marriage was supposed to happen. We were getting married in August, and she did this in the month of April. And this is back in 1985. And what she told my mother was, when you go home, you tell your daughter that she's not getting married to my son. You tell her to call off the wedding. And my mother's first response was, why? And she said, because both of my boys aren't getting married. They're just going to live with their girlfriends. And this way, if it doesn't work out, they can come back and live with me again. And there won't have to be a big, nasty divorce. This is a woman who is telling her son, the one that was going to marry me, she was continually telling him, I don't want you to leave me. And I don't want you to take a permanent step, the permanent step of legal marriage with this person, meaning me, because I control your relationships. And Mama is saying it's not going to be a marriage. You can be her boyfriend and you can live with her, but you can't marry her because I consider myself to be the most important person in your life, and I will not stand for this. And so, my mother gave pushback immediately and said, I am not going home and telling my daughter to call off her wedding. I'm not doing that. And this woman was absolutely indignant because how dare you tell me no? I brought you to my house and I gave you a command, and you are supposed to follow my command and do it now. And my mother was giving her the smiling, no, 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 I'm not doing that. And she said, well, you have to. And my mother said, I think this visit's over now. And they had already had lunch. She waited till they were having coffee to talk to her about this. But my mother left and she went home, and she was just absolutely livid for days over that because of the gall of this person to say, no, I control my son's relationships. They don't. They don't have any control over them. I do. But the highly, highly narcissistic behavior of someone who would do that, it's just absolutely off the charts. And sometimes the narcissistic person does not in any way, shape, or form recognize that their behavior is completely abhorrent. Sorry about the barking. We are getting a spring thunderstorm. It started about 8 o'clock this morning, and the sky has been really dark and really super heavy rain with pockets of thunderstorms in it. And my little dogs haven't heard thunder in many months, and so they are pretty worked up about it. So they might start to bark again. So, but the question is, it always circles back to this question, what on earth can we do about it? I get lots of pushback on my channel about recommending, in cases of severe narcissistic abuse and relationship interference and other things that narcissistic, people with disordered narcissistic behavior, because it is all disordered behavior, the things that they do, I would never recommend somebody say, well, I think that I should stay in this because eventually someday they'll stop it on their own. No, they won't. They don't have the ability to stop it. Because narcissistic behavior is disordered behavior. It doesn't mean they have to be diagnosed with a disorder. A personality disorder is what I'm referring to. It simply means that if that's their standard pattern of behavior, if you have ever attempted to get them to see it and to stop it, they don't. And then that fuels their vitriol, the fire hose of vitriol and shaming and blaming and manipulating and controlling that they will now do to you. And narcissists are not all grandiose. They're not all people who are obsessed with their house, their clothing, their car, their job, their image, their vacations, their bank accounts, their ladder climbing, their manicures, their pedicures, their skincare, all that stuff. All that stuff is little details about them. And they could be controlling and manipulative. But some people who are narcissistic in the grandiose sense are really just quite content to consider themselves above everybody else, and that's as far as it goes. But when you get into the fragile narcissism, the religious narcissism, the covert narcissism, the benevolent narcissism, a whole bunch of different ways other than grandiose narcissism that happen, you might begin to see a lot more of the manipulation tactics and the control tactics that are regarding other people's relationships. So Just one more example. My spouse at the end of our relationship, well, actually, we were separated, and so we weren't really in relationship at all anymore. But the sibling that came into town and demanded that I fix things with a different sibling so that they could feel better, so that they could have power and control over the situation. That same sibling who came into town and demanded that I do that, like I said, they got into my life like a nest of termites and did unbelievable betrayal. And it doesn't upset me now. I talk about it for the purpose of helping other people to heal their trauma and to recognize the emotional and psychological trauma that happens to them from being in a relationship with a person who has high narcissistic traits. And this person covertly, this is where the damage came all the way around the back way for years, and then circles right back around to, I still got some damage to do to you. I owe you some damage because you said no to me. And this didn't matter to me one iota, but the individual took my spouse out for dinner and sat and planned how best to divorce me with him in the most hurtful way. So they can wait a very long time to do you relationship damage. And there was lots of triangulating with my immediate family about this, including my children. And so they do come back and they don't let it go. They're just going to be doing that. They're just chewing that wood, digesting the wood of your life, and you won't know that it's there. And when we have these moments of awareness of what they're like, how they behave, she did take him out for dinner and did that. It was just gross. It was just a gross thing to be doing, because when someone discloses to you that they're being abused by their partner, to embrace the partner and to provide support and succor and emotional uplifting and embracing that abuser is done as a backstab. It's a cruelty that's done to you, and they don't mind doing it because it's all part of their retribution. It's just how they operate. So another form of relationship control is to make alliances with those who injure, harm, abuse, and hurt you, those who betray you. And they love for you to have a steady diet of overwhelming, mind-bending, emotion-wrecking betrayal. To them, that would be like going into a restaurant where there is just the most incredible array of food served up as a buffet, and it's the most, every single thing there is just the most unimaginably delicious thing that could ever be created by the most accomplished chefs in the world. That's how delicious betrayal is to a person of high narcissistic traits. And so if they want to interfere in your relationships and you are aware of it, you recognize it, you partner with yourself and you say, no, 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 you do not have the right to do that to me. I'm not going to bend to your will, and you're not going to control who and how I relate in this world, with whom and how. And anybody who has gone through this will recognize exactly what I'm speaking about. Not all of them are super severe, but they're all painful. And they're all forms of control. So if you have any questions about this, leave them in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would absolutely love it if you would. Thank you so much. I did not complete the concept of the thought that I got into about um, what we can do about it. It's very, very simple. Other than self-partnering, learning about self-partnering from somebody like Melanie Tonya Evans, we can follow the work of Jerry Wise from jerrywise.com. He's an amazing therapist. He's a therapist or a counselor, um, and very aptly named Jerry Wise. But he has tons of videos on YouTube, and he teaches a concept from Murray Bowen. Uh, it's Bowenic Family Systems, and of course, Dr. Bowen is no longer with us in our world, but there are plenty of people who follow his model and teach it to others. And the model is self-differentiation. When I recognize that I am a self and I can differentiate from people who are harmful, I can say no. I can choose a different path. I can strengthen myself by partnering with myself, and I can say, I said no to what you want. Sorry, it's just not going to work out for me. And you're just going to have to, one way or another, accept or deal with that, because I'm not going to waver on it. So if you want me to be friends with that person over there, the answer is no. 1,000 years from now, the answer will be no. You're not going to get anything from me other than a no. And have a nice day. I'm not going to fight with you. I'm not going to get down into the mud with you. I'm going to be living my best life. I'm going to be having the time of my life every single day. I know exactly who I am. I know what I am. I know what I stand for. I know how I can perfectly envision how every moment of my life I want it to go. I want it to go peacefully because I am peace. I'm love, light, truth, compassion, and human decency. I'm not going to be anything else. And so when we can self-differentiate and say, no, that's what you want, it's not what I want, and you don't get to put a lead on me, you don't get to put a gentle leader on me and lead me where you want to go. Now, I'm an autonomous adult. I'm saying no to you. And if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s, I think it's a real good idea for you to learn to understand the meaning of the word no. Because maybe it's high time in your life that you did. And if you can't, bye-bye. It's all there is to that. Either learn to accept the word no. You could even, start to say to them things like, well, I'll think about that. I'll let you know. I'll let you know tomorrow. If you can't handle a no today, I'll give you a no tomorrow. But it's still a no. Some people, want to, for whatever reason, I wouldn't judge anybody for saying, well, I want to soften that, or I just want to make that a little bit easier for them, or whatever. You'll find over time that the more you try to ease that with them, where you try to be gentle with them, it doesn't work. So we do eventually, through our experimentation and everything, we just learn to be a little bit more direct. But anyways, this has been a good discussion. I really appreciate you being here with me today for this. I hope it has helped you to understand a little bit more about how narcissistic people get into our relationships and how they do damage. So, got a couple visuals now. You can just think of them as termites in the wood of your relationships. And that might help you to make that decision to say, no, I'm not doing this with them anymore. No more power being handed to them. And please don't shame or blame yourselves or carry guilt for having had that relationship with them where they got to do that. The fault does not lie with the individual who's being abused. The fault lies with the person who's doing the abuse. Always. That's just the way it is. So you can let go of that and have a little bit of compassion for yourself and say, man, they are so manipulative. They get such a tight grip. They're so tenacious. It wasn't my fault that they got me to do some of the things that they wanted me to do. But I recognize it now, and I can live my life from this moment going forward exactly how I want to. You have the power. You absolutely have the power to do that, and you need permission from no one. So please remember, self-care is never ever selfish. It is essential to our well-being, and you're infinitely worthy of your trauma recovery. If you have not already liked, subscribed, and shared, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff for YouTube. Leaving comments in the comments section really, really helps my videos, helps the algorithm. I appreciate it so much. And if you have any requests for video topics, please put them in the comments section or just send me an email. You can leave me a voicemail if you like. My phone number is 716-994-3052. And my email is lin@linbouthillier.com. You don't have to worry how you spell it. Just go to the contact page for my YouTube channel. All of my information is there, and I would love to hear from you. So thanks again for viewing. Thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and share it with a friend so that they can subscribe too. I'm really trying to grow my channel, and it's coming along nicely, but we can always do a little bit better. And the more we share this information, the more I can help trauma and abuse survivors to have a path to wellness. So thanks, everybody. See you next time. Have the best day.